Have you got a brew ready?
This is one of my little podcasts that I do that not a huge amount of people watch them, but
Yeah.
I like doing them. I started off doing them. I did one with my friend called Earl. And with the first one that we did, we called it From the Outside Looking In, and it was just about our lives as like homeless people and like the drug issues that we had. And then, you know, it broadened out, and, you know, we talk about all sorts of things. And I've done a couple about mental health, and obviously I've got that forces connection. And then I'd sort of reached out to a couple of people in the forces about PTSD, and I'd seen your clip, and there was a few things that caught my attention about it. So I asked if you would come on, and here you are. And now we're talking, and we'll have this conversation, and then I'll just put it up for other people to watch and take from it what they will, if you like. Do you know what I mean? And what I find is that I always get at least one or two messages from people saying that they enjoyed it and it helped, etc. Which is, you know, all that matters, really, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? I'm not gonna
as long as you help one person, I think you've done your job.
When I find interesting people to talk to, I try and reach out to them, as in yourself. Because the thing that caught me about what you were talking about is wasn't just what happened in the army, it's what happened after it, and it's the sort of lead up to it, and sort of, you know, the charity that it was that helped you. Obviously, with my background, we'd get onto it, the fact that you'd ended up homeless in hostels and things. And
I'm okay now.
Yeah, you're okay now, and that's the good thing. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, well, you know, we're as okay as anyone else. Do you know what I mean? And I think everybody is carrying something. Do you know what I mean? Carrying some kind of. It's very rare you get towards sort of your 40s and everyone's not carrying some kind of tragedy, baggage. Do you know what I mean? Something.
Very lucky if you are plain sailing, but what a boring life as well, you know.
Yeah, and I've been thinking about, you know, and actually, you know what it is? I've been talking to some friends about that, because just while we're on the subject, like suicide's the biggest killer of men about my age.
Yeah.
And I put a post up the other day, and it wasn't some cry for help or anything, but I was saying I'm not suicidal. That was just to sort of let people know I'm not suicidal or anything, but I'm at that age where I think I understand why some men feel the need to just end it. And I think a lot of it, you know, is that plain sailing thing, that there's just nothing, and they get to a point where it's like, is this it? There's, you know, is this it kind of thing. Whereas I'm sort of at a stage now where we were just talking about all the stuff that I'm doing, sports trader. It's been a struggle, but I think because of my past, I've been able to struggle through this, and my wife as well, because we're both struggling, but she struggled with me when we were younger, and we've sort of drawn a lot on the experiences of struggling when we were younger to just say to each other, we'll be all right, let's just keep going. Do you know what I mean? Just keep plugging away kind of thing.
And you've got that support to
so there's part of
get through it.
I wish it wasn't as hard when I was younger, but there's part of me that's glad that I struggled when I was younger, because I think that, do you know what? I was thinking of terms, and I came out with this term struggle muscle, and I thought you cannot use the fucking term.
I actually like that.
Yeah, well,
it's true.
You know,
because it's like your endurance gets thicker and thicker, doesn't it? At the same time, there's another part of it, like wear and tear. But at the same time, once you've used a muscle,
it's there. As long as you can get a break afterwards and you can learn about it. That's what I was thinking to myself with my little narration in my head. I was thinking that was my sort of struggle muscle that I was
God, you need to use that. You need to get that word out there.
It sounds like it could be, I could go wrong in certain companies.
I mean,
you can imagine it with a bunch of squaddies. You come out with that. Yeah. So I caught your story, right? And your story was about PTSD and what you saw while you was in the army, and you was an army medic. And you know, we've just been having a bit of a joke there. I joined the Royal Navy when I was 32. And like, there you go, your face. You know, and look, I'm under no pretenses. You know, when I went into the careers office, I actually sat in the army and I said outright, am I getting shot at? Like, because I had no qualifications or anything.
Yeah.
And they was like, yeah, you'd be front line. And I was like, I'm 32, I've got no desires of getting shot at. And I went and spoke to the Royal Navy. And, you know, I worked on the flight deck of an aircraft carrier. That was my job, working on a flight deck of an aircraft carrier out at sea, away from harm's way. You were an army medic. You were an army medic, which is as full on as it gets, I can imagine, in certain places.
So, there's good and bad parts about it, I suppose. Like, so sometimes you're in a medical centre, just in, a little tent. I mean, that's cushy. But the minute you get out on the ground, it's a bit more, embracive, because the lads are relying on you. They're not just like, you're not just relying on yourself or to watch out for, guns, bullets, etc. You're actually there to, you have to be on the ball, not only for yourself, but for the lads. You need to be watching, not just for bullets or injuries. You're looking for heat exhaustion as well and things like that. You're constantly keeping an eye, and it's quite tiring, really.
Did you go in as a medic?
Yeah.
Yeah. How old were you when you joined? I just wanted to sort of talk about your career a little bit before.
Very young. I was 16 when I joined.
The thing that I saw on your clip is you were saying that you hadn't had the best of childhoods. I don't know, like, how much you want to talk about that, or if, like I said, if you don't want to talk about it, you don't have to.
My mother was amazing, but my father growing up with. So I spoke about it briefly. So just a brief, not to go into it, but he sexually abused me.
Right.
So I wanted to escape that.
And that's what I was leading up to, kind of thing. Because even though I joined late, because my life had been so sort of chaotic, I really enjoyed not being a civvy. I really enjoyed, even though, and it's like, even now, that's the aspect I miss from it. I miss the fact that I was taken away from society, kind of thing, and just left alone almost. Do you know what I mean? And just, do you know what I mean? Removed from all of the chaos, and it is a family of sorts. Dysfunctional one here and there.
Very dysfunctional.
But like that, I just, I think I'm a massive advocate for the forces, and I think that it can do a lot of good, especially for people like yourself and for me, to just get us away from everything, just remove us from the situation we're in and let us crack on with life elsewhere. So is that why you sort of, liked it, kind of thing? That's what you joined at a young age, and you were saying on that clip that I'd seen that you felt like it was a big family kind of thing. And do you think that's because of the fact that you come from that chaotic background and, was suddenly everything gets done for you, doesn't it? You looked after, you really looked after.
I do. I think I'm still really close to my family at home. Obviously, I rely on their support a lot, but I think I'm just getting away from that man. I had to go and find a new life away from this area and make something of myself. And I know there's a lot of controversial of women get sexually abused in the military, and that can happen, and it has happened to my friends, but I felt safe with the men around me. I felt protected, and I think you're like brothers, to me that was just an extension of a load of brothers. And so, like, seniors felt like a real father example.
I'm an advocate for the armed forces. I think that a lot of young people, I think that the armed forces are missing a trick, to be honest, with not actively recruiting certain people from certain areas and certain backgrounds, because I think that those type of people often make good soldiers / sailors / airmen, but we won't bother with the RAF. Do you know what I mean?
Let's leave them. No, I've got some good friends in the RAF.
That was one thing that I noticed, that you'd said that you'd come from this sort of, you didn't have a great childhood, and then you got into the army and you loved it, and you joined at 16. Is it the same as the Navy, that you joined at 16, but you're not actually allowed to do anything frontline until you're 18? Or
so I deployed as soon as I was 18. I deployed, actually.
Yeah.
So I deployed very young, which I think there's good aspects and bad aspects. That, so I was so young, I didn't understand dangers as well. I was more confident. There was less fear. I mean, as a soldier, tick.
Yeah.
That's excellent as a soldier, being 18 and deploying. But then there's the other aspect is, actually, later on, you're so young, you're not scared, and it does affect you because you start to learn about life and you mature and you become a parent, and all these other aspects come into it. And I think a lot of time that's when PTSD can really get hold of people, once you understand life a bit more.
Yeah, but it's easy to struggle when you're young, isn't it? See, you just Like, and that's what we were talking about with the struggle muscle. I'm going to keep using it.
You're resilient, aren't you?
When I was, when I was younger, like I think, God, when I was homeless and everything was really, I mean, as shit as it could be, I don't think I could handle that now. I think I would be like, this is too much. This is too much. And stuff.
No, I agree.
When I was younger, I used to just, tough it out sometimes and just, crack on. And I look back and think, how the fuck did I get through all that? But you just do when you're young.
What they say like children are really resilient, aren't they? So I think the same aspect as when we're young adults, adolescents, we're the same. We're so resilient that actually it doesn't affect you like you think it would.
No.
So some people it might, but because like ourselves, it's from childhood we've been so resilient.
Yeah.
The struggle muscle just continues to be used, and you just, yes, you're tired and you're weary, but you just crack on. Though there's one thing I would say, I grew up a hell of a lot, I think, whilst on tour. I think it matured me.
Yeah.
I think there was a massive wake-up call to like, wow.
Well, you're around adults suddenly, like as in real, adults, and you're getting shouted at and stuff by, fully grown adults. I mean, I joined at 32, and even I was like, oh, look at this, I have to do what I'm told.
Yeah, but I think after a certain age, I think there's a point that we become adults ourselves, and we don't want to continually be told what to do.
No, yeah.
We want to make our own, we want to be in control somewhere, in some aspect, and I think being a late arrival in the military, I think must be much harder than being younger.
It's like anything. There's positives and negatives to it. I'd do it again. Do you know what I mean? And I wish I joined up younger. I wish that I'd managed to join up in my mid-20s. I think that's when I was ready for it. But because of my criminal record, I had to wait. And that's where sort of I think that sometimes the forces are missing a trick, because I had to wait until I hadn't been in trouble for about 8 years, and I don't think
8 years.
Yeah. So I had to wait until my convictions were spent. I know that they've relaxed the rules a little bit now, but at the time, it was if you had any convictions, they had to be spent before you could join. So I had to wait until my convictions were spent. But I hadn't been in trouble since I was 21, and by 25, I was as mature as I ever am going to be. Do you know what I mean? That is, by 25, I was this person fully developed. My avatar.
You don't necessarily need 8 years to mature.
No, do you know what I mean? It was clear I wasn't going to be getting into trouble. It was clear that I was trying to sort my life out, kind of thing. A couple of things happened that I'm sure will come up. But we'll get back to you anyway. Sorry, we'll get back to you.
No, I'm enjoying listening to you.
No. We'll get back to you. So you joined the army at 16. You joined as a medic. How many tours did you do, and how long was it before you got to the stage where the sort of I'm only going off what I saw on that clip, but sort of the incident that caused your PTSD? How long had you been in? What tours had you done, kind of thing? And
when I was 18, I went to Afghan, Operic 6, 2007. So that was 6. I think it was about 7 months, because we did our. Well, you meant to go to Cyprus, aren't you, to do what's it called again? Yeah, we did it in Afghan.
Right, okay.
At Kandahar. Sorry, I'm just doing my son's shoelaces.
Oh, right, okay, that's fine.
He's going out to play football. So then after Afghan, we obviously come back, and we had a bit of drinking time, getting tippled. As you do.
Should we explain what decompression is?
I like to, right? This is probably a really bad way of describing it, but I describe it as it's a few weeks period for the guys and girls to completely get drunk if they want to, fight, get everything out before they return back to civilization.
I think they worked out that when people were coming back from deployment, they were getting into fights in Sydney Street. They were losing their temper really easy. And it was only happening in a certain window when they came back, and they sort of worked out, whoever it is, the people in the clouds, they worked out that there was this timeline from when people were coming back from deployment where it was really common for soldiers, etc., and sailors as well, just people that have been away for long periods of time, and it was common for them to get into fights. So they came up with the idea that they would send them to the decompression unit, which is in Cyprus, and basically
I never went to. Lovely place.
And it's what you said. It might not be official, but it's what you said. It's for everybody to get everything out of their system. And yourself, if there are fights that break out, they're fights that nobody really gets hurt in. Do you know what I mean? They're fights that everybody splits up, kind of, you know, when I say hurt, I mean nobody
it's controlled.
Yeah, nobody gets stabbed or anything. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
They're fights between people that have got a level of respect for each other, and there's people around to stop them getting out of hand and make sure that everybody is friends the next day, kind of thing. So that's the decompression unit. I just wanted to explain it.
Yeah, that's how I see it. That's how I've always put. You know, there's lots of fights that happen, but actually, it's a good thing. It's happening in a controlled environment.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go too far, but it's enough to release whatever tension is being brought up from tour.
Yeah.
But not always. It doesn't always. Yeah. But I think it's needed. Yeah. So we did that in Kandahar. We played a lot of American football, things like that. I never had any fights.
No.
Maybe I missed out there. I don't know.
No, you didn't.
We went to Kenya, and we'd given medical aid. Oh my God, that's my favourite place, Kenya. Right. Love it. I've been
Kenya. No.
Have you not been to Kenya? Oh my God. So it was, what was it called? My memory's really bad. This is my own problem. Basically, we're doing medical aid, giving vaccinations and anti-malarials to the children. And the locals, or not so much locals, they would walk days just to come to our medical tents to get some treatment for paracetamol, basically. But it was so rewarding giving vaccinations and anti-malarials, knowing that we're helping prevent something in the future for those that actually need it. And there it was just, that's probably my favorite place. There was just like watching the villagers do their tribal dances and catching fish with the locals and goats, and it was just
Africa's amazing. I've been to Namibia when I was younger. I went to Namibia and I was there for 3 months volunteering and stuff like, and that was, a lot of my friends are quite left wing, and when I did, like, you know, I am as well, like with the role that I'm going into, I'm going to be doing like homeless support worker, mental health worker, and I'm doing this charity thing called Sports Trader, which is working with, so I am quite sort of left wing, but at the same time I'm like, there should be national service for people like me when I was 16.
I'm the same. I'm, you know, like,
and people are like, oh no, national service, it's forcing you to go and fight wars for the government.
Yeah,
no, it's
good.
not. But there should be something that, you know, drill makes me get out of bed in the morning. Someone shouting at me and stuff. Do you know what I mean? For just a year, just to sort of get me out of that place where I was doing nothing except, you know, taking a lot of drugs and just wandering about aimlessly. I was homeless at 16. I would have snapped your hand off to go and do something like that at that age. So, yeah.
I agree with you there. Maybe that's a service personnel thing, because I agree there should be national service, just because I think it really can change your morals, your mindset. Because I think we hold a different set of morals, us military. There's a standard. I know not everyone, but the majority of us, just like civilian street, there's morals, and not everyone follows the same, you know, not everyone's a sheep or whatever. I'm not saying we're sheep, but I'm saying there's a standard of integrity.
Integrity. I was just about to say, bring back national service. That's a whole different podcast.
Let's go, national service. We agree. There's two here, right? Two.
So you're doing your deployments, etc. And then if you could just lead me up to what happened with regards to what you were talking about on that previous video, and sort of you know the incident that left you not well.
Well, then obviously from there at Kenya, I went to Canada. And then I come back, and then I got posted to ATC Purbright. And so how many years was that after? It was only 2 years after.
Yeah.
And I felt myself, when I was in Canada, I wasn't quite myself. I wasn't as bubbly as I was. But I didn't really know what was going on. I just thought, maybe I'm tired, you know, or, you know, maybe, I don't know. I didn't know what was happening, really.
Is this with the fact that you were already suffering with PTSD? You didn't know what was happening, or?
Yeah, so I assume it was already taking effect then, I assume. Because I know even in Afghan, I was having the odd nightmares and stuff anyway, but I didn't really, you know, if there was someone who passed or whatever, I just was like, that night I would dream of the guy's face or the children's face, and it was just and I had to change my mindset when I was out there and be like, they're just dolls, they're Resuscianis, you know, like, oh, that's just a doll. And I was trying so hard to change that. But then when it was Canada. I started noticing I was starting to close myself off from people.
Yeah.
Like I was at the beginning of Canada, I was really out there, and then towards the end, I was just sort of isolating myself. Actually, is the right word. I was starting to isolate myself, and then I got posted to Pirbright, and it was getting worse. And then one night, I just tried to kill myself. But that was before I had my son Brandon. But I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know why.
So was it an accumulation then of things that you saw, or was there one particular event? Because obviously I'm only going off that sort of, you know, the little clip that I found you on kind of thing, and you seem to be talking about one event there, but when you're talking there, you're also mentioning children, and I've got a couple of friends that have been to Afghanistan, and you forget that you see a lot quite often. And, you know, I've got friends that have said the same thing. I'll tell you what, I've got one friend who was in the army, and he is affected, and I get this as well, and people watching this might think this is horrible, but he was saying when he was out there were times where they would go into places and there would be body parts around and stuff, like, do you know what I mean? He was like, and we would be joking about it and we'd hold things
I did.
Yeah, and I was like, I fully understand why you would do that and make light of everything and sort of, you know, crack jokes and try and make it like, I'm not bothered, this is all funny, like gallows humor, if you like. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So was there a lot of incidences where you were doing that to get through it, and then it's all caught up with you slowly but surely as you've sort of, after you've left, once you're out the situation and you can take stock of it all, that's what's playing on your mind?
There was so in that advert, I could only briefly talk about, he was like, what's the first thing that pops to your head that stands out? So that was the one thing, which was a colleague of mine, the burnt guy, he's a colleague of mine. So we were friends. But there was lots of situations, like, I mean, there was, so on one occasion, there was 3 legs. Okay, and I'm going to laugh about it, but I had to work out which leg was this guy's.
Yeah.
Which one was his and whose was someone else's. You know, that's just one occasion. And at the time we joked, we were like, oh, we got a spare leg. But, you know, it's not really funny. Like,
well, I know it's not, but that's like my friend. He was saying that someone threw him an arm to catch. Do you know what I mean?
That's the stuff we did. Yeah.
Cool. And it sounds horrific, but that's how you're getting through it. Do you know what I mean? By making it, you know, sort of, I mean, it sounds really bad, but even
it sounds disgraceful, doesn't it? But it's not.
Even I understand why that happens and why when you're out there, you kind of have to do that to get through it. Because if you start saying, look at how serious this is, look at how bad this is, then you're doomed. You're doomed. Do you know what I mean? And actually, as harsh as it sounds, you're not going to be a very good soldier.
No, you're not. It's a coping mechanism. I mean, if you can't laugh it off, you are going to be useless.
Yeah.
And I know, and that's why I mentioned earlier about things start to hit you as you get older. You start to go, hang on a minute. I might have been young and more resilient then, but hang on a minute. That wasn't right. That wasn't normal. Like, and being a medic, I think you do see a bit more than what the average. So, like, infantry is awful. Like, I think they see an awful lot as well. Constantly, we used to go out on the ground for infantry, but it's not. We were dealing with mass casualty situation. I don't think people see Afghan, they see us just hurting women and children. But I've had to treat the Taliban. I've had to fix the Taliban's arm. He blew his own arm up making a bomb for us. But human rights, we have to treat them.
Which I don't think you should.
No, he spat at me because I was female.
Yeah,
he had no respect for me. So, but against, like, human rights, it's a law, it's a legal requirement. Either way, I would have treated him. You know, he's still a casualty and he's still a human being at the end of the day. But it's not just that babies were dying on us from them getting caught up in collateral damage. And I think as soon as you're a parent, that's really hard to process. And I know for me personally, my PTSD got worse after I become a parent, because then I really started to think about those children in Afghan who had been brought into this life, who they were given Coke cans as bombs to give to us and things like that. And they were stuck in the middle. And we had a mass casualty one day of over 30 women and children and babies. And that was just one incident. And I mean, and I would say probably half of them survived.
Right.
And we were doing our utmost, but there was myself and another medic and a nurse. That was all that was in this forward operation base, the FOB. There was no doctor. We had to get a doctor flown in. We were running out of medical equipment. It was horrific. And I just there's instances like that won't leave me, what happened there. The Grenadier Guards were there and they gave up their beds and what they were sleeping on, their camp beds, just as stretchers for us to put women and children on. And they were amazing, the Grenadier Guards. And we were like, can you go do this, team medic kind of thing, and just getting as much help as we can. But we had to get equipment dropped to us from Bastion. We were running out, and it was a scene that you would see off the movies. And it's instances like that you just think, how is that easy to process? Now I'm a parent.
Yeah, parenting. I find parenting heartbreaking.
Yeah, so do I. My son is going through the teenage stages now. It's wonderful.
Right. Yeah, I find it. My boy's only young, but if he's upset about something, I'm like, oh, you're upset. It's too much. It's too much. So yeah, it's just to have seen stuff like that. I make no bones about it. Like I said, when I went into the careers office, I made it clear I was too old to be getting shot at. And there's times where I listen to yourself and I think, no, I'm glad, it's really sad that you've had to go through that, but I'm glad that I didn't go through it, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? So maybe I made the right choice.
I still wish I did more. I still always think I could have given a bit more, but even though I know at my time I was doing my best, and I know all of us soldiers think that, right?
Well, I'm a sailor, so
sailors, soldiers, we all think the same. We all think we could give a bit more, but we know we've done our best. I think that's a burden we carry, actually.
Yeah.
To be honest, because it's so confusing, because as you just said, you kind of wish you didn't do more and you're glad you didn't, but at the same time you wish you could. It's confusing, isn't it?
Do you know what? Yeah, do you know a really good way to explain it, right? Is I've just left the forces, and obviously there was talk about we're going to go to war with Russia and stuff like that. And someone was saying to me, what would you do if we went to war right now and you've just left? And I was like, I'd sign back up.
I said the same thing.
There's no way I'm letting all my mates go off and off on the aircraft carrier without me. And I've just left. All right, a couple of years down the line, fine. But if it had just broke out and I just left, and I'm like, what? So we're going to war now that I've just left? Just sign me back up. I'll just do that. I'll do that and then I'll leave. I'll leave.
Yeah, I said the same. I'd get on a plane if that would support our comrades. I'm not having all you boys out there on your own.
You're saying that it started sort of coming to the fore when you were in Canada. Was it? Did you say Canada?
Canada, yeah. I started to go just isolating, but not so much. I think it was more of a depression.
Yeah.
Than flashbacks and stuff. It was more of a depression, and because again I was doing no duff, so for those who don't know what that is, that's real time casualties and not practice pretend. So I was doing no duff on the ambulance out in Canada on the prairie. So that was, and I think to me, I thought, I won't see anything, it's just going to be a headache or primary healthcare. Like someone's got some diarrhea, here's some fluids. But I'm like, guys were trapping their thumbs and stuff in the tanks and breaking C-spine and stuff. And I think actually, because I wasn't expecting that, I think in my head, I was like, oh my God, we're back here again. There was something, and then I just really started to isolate, and I was really quite sad at that time. But it wasn't so much flashbacks. It was just like, oh, again. do you know what I mean?
It sounds silly, when you're talking about an injured thumb, but I can imagine if there's blood and it looks like it's quite gory, that's instantly reminding you of some of the stuff that you've seen, when it's really, really serious. Was anyone speaking to you? Medical department? Anybody, putting you to the side at any point to ask how you were, or do you get that in the army?
You know what? So when I got to Perb, right, and I tried to. That's the first time I tried to kill myself. Took tablets. So I've done it a few times. I'm not ashamed to say it. It's happened. I've done it. I actually was late to work, and the practice manager didn't believe me because it didn't work. I didn't take enough tablets. Didn't know what I was doing. I was still only 20, I think 21 or whatever, or 20. Still young. I didn't actually want to kill myself. I just wanted, feeling sad, to stop. And I was late to work, so I was meant to be there at 8 on the parade at 8 in the medical centre, ready for the vaccination parade to do all the vaccines. And I think I turned up at like lunchtime, all like, I got a bollocking. I got from the medical centre, the sergeant there, he actually, like, I was on work parades and stuff. Yeah.
So you got, and did they know that that's what you'd done?
Yeah, I told him. He didn't believe me. So I think so sometimes that can be the I'll never forget that sergeant. I'll never forgive him, because if he had listened to me, because that was me reaching out and I wasn't heard. Instead, I got in trouble. So it was like, well, hold on a minute. It's hard enough for someone to open up anyway. Like, I kept my mouth quiet from, I think, all through Canada. I just cracked on and got on with it, as you do. And then I tried to open up and I got shut down and got in trouble. And I was just like, wow. Okay. And I didn't say anything. I just sort of bared with it for a while. And then 2 years later, I had my son. And then there was a personal incident that happened. So my son's father was in the Royal Anglians, and we went on tour. We were on tour together, So it was a Ross Kemp tour, Afghanistan. Yeah. So we were on tour together, and it affected him. And we were together a long time, and I don't want to personally speak for him, but the light in his eyes had disappeared, and things changed, and it was very difficult in our relationship. Very, very difficult. And I was then trying to support him through his PTSD, as well as not understanding why he's like that, and not understanding that I had PTSD either. I wasn't sure what was happening to either of us, to be honest. I just know we were both different from before we went on tour. And I struggled, and then we broke up, and then I tried to kill myself again. And not because of the breakup, but because of the endurance of
everything, because of everything.
Yeah, the lead up. So I think from my childhood, that thing that happened as a child, and then I think it was just too much. And again, being a medic, he was infantry. I just wanted to help him, and I couldn't. And that distraught. But I had to leave. I was in safe house and stuff. I don't want to go too in depth about it, but I think you can understand what was happening there. He wasn't very good, and he's got help and support now, thankfully. And he's an amazing father and an amazing man, and I'll never take that away from him because he's amazing. But it's just, it was too much for me I couldn't deal with all of it, and I didn't understand what was happening. And then when I was in safe house and I tried to kill myself, I actually got welfare team, mental health support, and they went, Amber, you've got PTSD.
Isn't it a shame that it has to take all that, bro? Do you know what I mean? It has to get to that point. And it's impossible to know whether I should be like thinking that the medical centre should have done more, or because I know that like I don't suffer with depression. Like, I make a point of saying I don't suffer with depression, but I get quite down in a dump sometimes. But a lot of times when I'm down, I'm a lot more open about it now. Like, if I'm not in a good mood, people know about it. But a lot of the time, I'll tell you and it's why I wanted to talk about the suicide thing as well, because I really like something that you said on that clip, and it was where you said that you tried to commit suicide, but you've got a son, and you said, I need to be stronger than that. So my mum committed suicide, right?
I'm so sorry. That's awful.
It's so but it happened to me when I was an adult. I was like coming up to 25 years old. So I really like the fact that you said you need to be stronger than that kind of thing. And because it's a really awkward, like, how do I look at it? Do I have lots of sympathy for the fact that my mum committed suicide? Am I really angry at her? And it's both. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a two-way thing. And the truth is that if you do something like that and you've got kids, you've just done something to your child, or, you know, whatever age they are, that stays with them forever. Do you know what I mean? So I really like the fact that you sort of talked about it, but also said the words, you know, that's not right. I need to be stronger than that. So, you know, congratulations for saying that. What that was leading to.
So sorry that you've been through that. That's actually.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was saying. That we all get to an age where everyone's carrying a tragedy. Because the thing is you say you're really sorry for me about that. I've got a friend that has had a much nicer life than me, but they lost a child to leukemia. They lost their baby to leukemia. Now,
that's awful.
Now, listen, my mum committed suicide by setting fire to herself. So it was quite a grim thing. And it's something that I had to deal with. And I would take my tragedy over her tragedy every single time. Do you know what I mean? As much. So when you're like, I'm sorry you've had to put up with that, I would take my tragedy over losing a child every single day of the week. So the whole point of me talking about that was, you know, nobody in the forces knew that had happened for at least 9 years, because I just carried it. And even when I was depressed, really grieving about things, because I was at a stage where I was like, I've really turned my life around and my mum can't see it. She's missed all of this. And that would make me really sad. But I'm a bit of a clown. I'm a bit of a joker. I'm always cracking jokes. So everybody would be like, oh, he's always happy. And it's like, well, I'm not actually. I'm really miserable at times.
No, I'm the same. I'm so good at putting this persona on that everyone's like, she's so bubbly, blah, blah, blah. But inside, sometimes I'm really fucking sad. I can relate to that, though, from having that previous childhood experience, carrying that and keeping it quiet and just cracking on.
Yeah.
It does come to bite you at some point.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
When you got diagnosed, how does that work? When you're saying that the medics eventually, after you tried to commit suicide and that, where were your safe house?
So I was in safe house in Tidworth, and they gave me, I had very much intense therapy. But you know what's quite funny? Yeah. When they first diagnosed me, I had therapy about what happened in my childhood.
Yeah.
Right? I then got posted to Wimbish, and it sort of got, it was still there, but it sort of got forgotten that I was ill mentally. But I still got promoted, and then I got posted to Malaysia. And again, that environment, like, I was coping. They give me antidepressants, you know, and off my face some diazepam. Like, I was being fed tablets, like, here you go, just to get by. But I was still being promoted and still, like, getting posted like nothing had happened. In Malaysia, I went really downhill out there, like, really badly. And I think that it was the environment. I'm going to be honest.
What happened? Like, what was the environment?
I think the culture is so similar to Afghanistan that it triggered me. And I feel bad saying that, because, oh my God, the Malaysian people are so lovely.
Yeah.
In Brunei, like, amazing. But I just think it was seeing women in turbans and stuff.
And their get up.
Yeah, I think that did something in my brain, and it was just me and my son just got posted out there to a Gurkha regiment. So it's all new. We're on our own in another country, no family support, like, you know, not knowing anybody. I mean, the Gurkhas are amazing to work with. Absolutely the best regiment I've ever worked with in my entire life. Like, I love them. They're such amazing people.
The Gurkhas honestly, the Gurkhas and the Fijians are the loveliest human beings on earth.
Aren't they?
You just don't want to mess about with them. Do you know what I mean?
No, I would not like to go on this. I met some lovely, lovely, amazing humans, the Gurkhas regiment and their wives, just all of them adorable. So just lovely humans. And it was just the triggering of, like, you know, the women being dressed that way. There was an immediate fear in me.
Yeah.
And I started getting flashbacks then, properly, full on flashbacks then.
How does that work? How does that manifest itself, a flashback?
It was just every time I would see someone in that outfit, I would see I was in Afghan again.
And do you mean you would physically see I'm in Afghan, or you just all of a sudden it felt like, oh, I'm in Afghan, or
there was feelings, but also in my head I was like, oh God, I'm in Afghan. Then it's like, whoa, but only a split.
Yeah.
You know, Afghan, no, back in again, I'm not. And then I would start having the nightmares started, like really, really badly. And it wasn't even generically nightmares to do with Afghan. It was war situations,
right,
but in random places. That's where it started. And like there was tanks coming to get me, and like it was weird stuff.
That's where it started really taking a hold, and that's where you were saying, is that where you got diagnosed properly?
Yeah, so properly, not entirely properly, but the MO, medical officer, the doctor, he was, I had to think then what it was called again. We were good friends, so he could see that I was going down, and he actually pulled me in and he said, I'm going to CASEVAC you back to the UK. He said this environment, he said it's this environment that's, you know, making you go downhill. He was amazing. He supported me fully throughout Malaysia. He was so caring and empathetic, and I don't think I would have got through that period if it wasn't for him being there, that doctor being there, and just fully understanding. He understood. I wasn't fobbed off, you know, like at Purbright and being laughed at.
You didn't get bollocks.
Yeah, I didn't get in trouble for it. He genuinely was like, you're not well, you know, that, and you can't help it, and this environment is making you worse. Yeah. He was aware, and it's like, I think that he may have had previous experience dealing with soldiers. He's seen it before.
Yeah.
Because he knew exactly how to take care of me and how to handle my mental health. So which was great. So we got CASEVAC back to UK. And I was put in the PRU unit, the recovery unit.
Right.
And I had intense counselling. Again, only lightly covering Afghan, which is weird. They really wanted to go into childhood stuff and then my son's father's relationship stuff. Again, it's like they're avoiding almost a diagnosis from the military, you know.
Yeah.
But I suppose they like to go back to the beginning because then they can.
Well, that beginning thing is a serious thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
That will affect anybody. You know, and I had some issues, probably not as bad, but similar issues. Do you know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, so,
I know what you mean.
it's something that does, you know, stick with you. As you get old, you know, it never goes. Do you know what I mean? It's all, you never just forget about it. Like, oh well, you just brush that off.
That's done.
You know, but it's learning how to live with it, if you like, learning how to harness it almost and use it. Your struggle muscle, like I was saying. I'm going to hashtag that.
I love the struggle muscle. On a serious note, that's brilliant.
That clip there, you just saying, I love the struggle muscle, in a room with a bunch of squaddies.
Oh my God, that sounds awful.
Right, exactly. In a room with a bunch of squaddies, you saying, I love the struggle muscle is the reason why I probably can't use the term.
I just twigged on to how awful and why. That sounds so bad.
We'll just move on. Intense therapy and stuff. And then what happened? Because did you get medically discharged?
I did. I got so in 2016 I got medically discharged for PTSD, anxiety, depression, and I've had 2 knee ACL injuries.
Did you want to be discharged? Were you happy to be medically discharged? No.
Not really. No.
Yeah, I was talking to my wife about that, saying that I got friends that when they got medically discharged, they'd hit the jackpot. Do you know what I mean? But
I wish I did.
Yeah, but I've got a friend.
Yeah.
He's somebody that I've never met. He's a Facebook friend, but he was in the Navy. We've worked out we were on the same ship together and stuff. But we know each other through Newcastle United and the fact that we're football fans and stuff like. And he's been on my Facebook page, and we talk fairly often. and he really struggled because he got medically discharged. Nothing serious like yourself, like PTSD. He just got medically discharged for his knee or something, you know. But he didn't want to leave, and he sunk into a really bad depression.
I did.
And, you know, and I was saying to Runji, because, you know, he didn't want to leave the Navy, and the next minute he's working in a warehouse, you know, gutted that he's left. So on top of all the stuff that you're dealing with, the fact that you then get medically discharged, which might be the right thing to do medically, but actually, no, it leads to more.
That's what happened, to be honest, because that was my family.
Yeah.
You know, I had my own family, but that was my trusting space. That was a career I went in for. I mean, I did 11 years. I wasn't there for a quick 4 years in and out. You know,
Yeah.
I wanted the full 22, and I had no other plans. I ended up being like acting practice manager in a medical centre. You know, I was wanting a career path. You know, that was where I was going, and it got ripped from under my feet. And I think, and I wanted my child brought up as a pad brat. I wanted my child brought up in an environment where there's, you know, there's high caliber of women and men as great examples.
How quick was it?
Quite quick. Yeah. 3 months.
Which again, that's fuck all. Excuse my language.
You know, and in that time, I was so mentally unwell because I was rehashing everything. I was not okay. And I'm going through resettlement and, you know, all the stuff that you do. Like, I mean, it's amazing that how much they do help you and prepare you to leave into civilian street. But when you're not mentally well, all that was a waste of time.
Yeah, it's not going in, I'm imagining.
Yeah,
you're not really taking on board what it is that they're trying to help you with.
And if you don't want to leave, you don't want to be going to resettlement classes. You don't want the fact that you're struggling to wake up and you're still getting therapy, or you're depressed every day, sitting there in resettlement classes and courses and stuff to enter civilian street. I'm sorry, but you are not in a frame of mind to be going through that. And I think my only grievance is, I think there needs to be, before they go into resettlement, they need to ensure that you are in a frame of mind to accept the advice and the courses and to understand and comprehend actually what you're sitting and listening to. Because if you are not in that frame of mind, this is where homelessness and depression and not knowing what is out in civilian street, like you're not knowing what's there because you've not even heard what's been said to you for the last hour.
No, which again, do you know what? That's one of the big positives about me joining up late, right? Is that when I'd had enough, I put my notice in. The way it worked with the Navy is you put your notice in and then you have to go have a meeting with somebody, a very high ranking officer. And their job is to check that you actually are doing the right thing to leave, right? And that you're ready for Civvy Street. I was, within minutes, they was like, you're going to be fine, mate. It's time for you to go. Just leave quietly, please. Do you know what I mean? So that's where I was. But again, what I was saying there is that because I joined late, I knew what was coming. Do you know what I mean? I knew, and I'd had a pretty unsuccessful time as a civvy. So I was looking back to coming into Civvy Street, actually.
And to that.
And, you know, to what I'm doing now. And actually, right, I'm in Civvy Street and everything's not a mess anymore. You know, like, whereas before I was like, I'm not very good at this civvy stuff. I'm like, I can't look after.
I'm going to be honest. I'm not very good at civvy stuff. I'm still learning. How many years later? And I mean, I know we had 2 years in lockdown, which was I actually loved. How long have you been
civvy for now?
So 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Nearly 6 years.
So homelessness really pisses me off to this day, and it pisses me off obviously doubly that you've then gone from being in the forces to ending up homeless. How did that happen and how quick did that happen?
So very quick. So I got a little payout, not a lot, but that was enough to put a rent on somewhere for 6 months, and I could do that, you know, with still being in the forces and get a rented house. So technically I only have like, I think it was about 4 months in this. So I put an upfront full on 6 months rent on this house. But the lease, I didn't really think. See, I wasn't in the frame of mind to be thinking. I didn't really think about the lease, or I didn't really know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was joined. I didn't know all this stuff. To be honest, they were just like, "Oh, your lease has run out. You have to leave." And I was just like, "What? So I just not continue paying rent like I do in the military?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wasn't sure, and I had no one to say to me, "This is what you need to do. This is how it works." So I didn't know what I was doing. So then the money, I only got 30,000 or whatever. I didn't get a lot, believe it or not.
No, and it's not a lot. That it's fuck all. It goes nowhere.
So, and then I wasn't in the frame of mind to be looking for a job, but though I started working in a care home, just something immediately to get some money and tick me over, because I didn't want to be overly lazy, I still got some morals there.
Yeah.
I was just like, then having to put my stuff into storage because I had nowhere to put my stuff, and I was leaving, like, I had to leave this house. So I had to organise storage, which I've done before because of the military, from going from the UK to Malaysia. I had to put my stuff in storage. That I knew how to do. Thank God. I've done that before. But then I was paying for hotels, B&Bs, and someone said to me, go to the council. You usually get a house pretty soon, my part, health, a single mother. I went to the council. You're not a priority. I was like, yeah, but I'm a new veteran. I'm a single mother. I have mental health conditions. My son also was going through the diagnosis of autism, which he does have Asperger's, but whatever. He's fine. He's quite normal. He just has outbursts. That's another story. And then a history of domestic abuse as well. I literally had everything that you could tick the boxes for, right? And I was just like, I wasn't a priority. They didn't want to help me.
Was this before the Armed Forces Covenant, or after? Because they've changed it, innit? And that's how I've got my place, because the Armed Forces Covenant came out.
Literally a year or a few months before.
Yeah, because now it's in place that you don't need a local connection, you go to the top of the list. But the fact that you didn't get help,
honestly, I left, right, and centre, and I was like, but I haven't been in my new job long enough to get a property now, because I got kicked out the other one because my lease was up, and then you need a reference and you need to guarantee, like, for a certain amount of period of time, don't you?
Yeah.
What
council was this? What council was it? Name and shame
them. East Suffolk Council.
East Suffolk Council. Sounds
yeah.
Right. I'll tag them.
Council, Suffolk Council. This one, this end. This one in Lowestoft. They are named and shamed. So I was running out of money to pay for the hotel rooms. I'm going to be honest. That money that I got from the military, I mean, yeah, it roofed me and my son for so many months, but I was running out pretty fast. I mean, I wasn't in the same hotel room. I was in and out driving, slept in my car. Some nights I stayed at my brother's house, but he only had a 1-bed house, and like, I was in and out of everywhere, and I was like, what am I going to do? I'm literally got hardly any money left. What am I going to do? I can't. When I'm talking about hardly any, I'd like a couple of hundred in the bank, which would have the hotel room. I was just like, what I was just, and getting very depressed as well, because my mental.
Well, yeah, because I mean, the thing is, excuse, because I swear when I talk about homelessness straight away, because I get pissed off, but it happens so quick. Do you know what I mean? And it's so and for somebody like yourself, you must have been thinking, is this civvy life? Like, what the fuck?
I was like, fuck is happening?
Yeah, like, you've gone from, and this is like, I joke with what I'm doing now. I've left the most secure job that there is, pretty much, but you've left like this really secure, like, not just job, because it's more than a job.
With the men and women around you, you're safe as well.
Yeah, and it's like, it's like what we were saying. If you've got a problem, you go to work, right? And whatever your problem is, you ask which department sorts that problem out, and then you go and see that department, and someone sorts it out for you.
And it's all in one.
Yeah, everything's on one camp. And to take all of that, like for somebody like yourself, and obviously I know about homelessness, so to be dealing with all of that, but literally months before, everything was really secure.
Yeah. I had a home, I had support, I had a family network. Now I'm out in this big wide world with my son on my. Why are they not helping me? I'm like, surely I'm a priority.
Yeah.
Sure. And I was reading and I was like, I am a priority. And I was going to them, I am a priority. Look, you had this and this, I've got this. Look, and they were like, no, not interested. Right. So I reached out to so many charities. Like, I didn't know what to do. I was so scared. I'm gonna be honest, I was scared. I was scared. Like, so scared. There was like Afghan scared, but this was a different scary because it was not just me, it was my son. And I was just like, what the fuck do I do? I was so lost and scared, and I was in this big wide world, just me, my son, and my car, with none of my belongings with me. It's in storage except the odd few clothes on our back, you know. And it was just like, I don't know what to do. And that's how I was. I was like, I don't know what to do. And I was just like Googling like anything on the internet, and I came across a few charities. And then Help for Homeless Veterans charity. I came across them and I emailed them, and my email must have been ridiculous. It was something like, help me, I'm urgently need your help. Please help me. I don't know what to do. Like, it was so beggy. Do you know what I mean? I was pleading.
Yeah. Which is shit that you have to do that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's bollocks, to be honest. It really fucking winds me up. The fact that nobody should be homeless anyway.
No, they shouldn't. There's
a veteran that's been medically discharged from the army should not be fucking homeless. Period. Like, there's just, that should not happen. If it does happen, that veteran should be able to ring up the army. Not all these charities. They should be able to ring up the army and say, this hasn't worked out. Please help me.
Yeah, I know. And the fact I even had to reach out to charities, like, yes, that's what they're there for, but bloody hell, what an ego, like a shoot to the ego. Is all I can say. Massively. Like, my pride had gone. I think that was the biggest thing for me to deal with, is the pride. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah. Well, homelessness humbles you. It humbles you, and it makes you realize how precarious everything is. Like, so it's funny because I haven't been homeless, as in I haven't had to sort of sleep outside kind of thing, since my mid-20s, since not long before my mum, actually. And then after that, everything sort of slowed down. And I'm 45 now, but I'm really, really acutely aware of the threat of homelessness.
Do you know, I'm exactly the same. Like, is the rent paid? I can't lose this house. I can't lose this house. On it. And that's the only thing I'm really care about. Is I don't care if there's no gas, there's no electric, is my rent paid?
I was thinking about it. It's that survival thing. Like, there's the rules that you follow if you're doing survival. You need shelter, you need water, you need food, and it's literally it's that at every level. That is the most basic thing that you need, and you need shelter. That is the most important thing. Because I became long-term homeless, you don't understand. It's a different thing. When you become long-term homeless, you can't get out of that cycle, and it's because you don't know how to look after yourself, and you can't get it through to your head that the rent comes first and foremost. Shelter is the first thing that you take care of, nothing else, because there's so many things that you're trying to sort out. Once you're long-term homeless, it's a really complex situation, and there's so many things that need working on that you don't know where to start. And it's easier to be homeless than it is to concentrate on all these things that you need to work on, which is why you end up long-term homeless. But you've really got to get it through to people that you have to have somewhere to live. That's the main thing. That's the most important thing, is shelter.
It is safety. It's a place where you can find comfort, no matter how big that walls around you. It's your place of I've got somewhere.
I want a big shout out and like talk about the charity that helped you. What is it, you know, who they are. You were saying you emailed them. What happened? Did they get straight back to you? How did they help you? What are they called again?
So Help for Homeless Veterans are based here, so up north.
Based where? Sorry,
Yorkshire.
Right.
They got back to me within 24 hours, and they rang up the council, and they got me and my son a hostel until they could get us up to Yorkshire to house us. Which, I mean, the hostel was disgusting. It was for druggies, and I've never, like, drugs aren't my thing. I'm totally against it. From going into a safe environment to blokes that just drink to then that.
Yeah.
Difficult process, but they didn't leave me there long. They just wanted the roof over my head. So they'd done that immediately. And then I think is within a week, one of them drove all the way from Yorkshire to Suffolk, picked me and Brandon and our belongings up and took us to Yorkshire, and they got us a bungalow within a week.
You had to relocate to Yorkshire?
Yes.
It's fucking bollocks, that, really. I know that's not knocking anybody, because I know they've helped you, but that's knocking your council still, the fact that you've had to relocate to somewhere that you're not from as a veteran.
I knew no one in that area apart from the people from the charity.
Yeah.
I had no family there. I was I needed that time, but I was extremely isolated. Obviously I can't change the past, and I wouldn't, because that time helped me process some of my mental health problems, PTSD. It helped me it gave me that time to process. However, we were there 2 years and it was becoming a bit of a stretch. I was away, like, I know I could get on the train or drive down or whatever, but I was just lonely, and it wasn't good for me or Brandon towards the end. But they did help me move back this way. It's council housing now I'm in, but the Help for Homeless Veterans, they help, because I said I want to be here with my family, because they are my family. I want to see my family and my friends, and they helped me get back here, and the council listened very quickly.
Yeah, once they've got somebody sort of, you know, makes them listen, they listen. But I mean, that's an age-old problem. It still happens now. People go to the council and they fit the criteria that the council is supposed to help, and councils shirk their responsibility. There's a housing crisis, so you can sort of understand. Well, I say you understand. I know why they shirk their responsibility. It's because a lot of the time they can't really do anything. But instead of just holding their hands up and saying, we can't do anything, we haven't got the houses here, they just fob you off, because they know that then highlights the fact that they're not coping with the situation, and nobody wants to admit that they can't cope with the situation.
Remember writing, is it to Peter Aldous? I think he's the MP for this area. I wrote a letter to him complaining. I was like, look, this is disgusting. I'm a single mother. I'm a veteran with mental health conditions. Like,
a strongly worded letter is as British as it gets, isn't it?
Letter. But Steve, the CEO of Help for, he spoke to the council, and I think the Yorkshire Council spoke to the council here, and they laid down the correct rules of how they should be supporting somebody in my position. Not that I was then homeless because they had housed me, but it was the importance of my mental health. I was stuck somewhere of...
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't think that should even be questioned, the fact that you've been... I think it's disgusting that you were in a situation where you had to actually move up to Yorkshire. I'm glad that it happened, do you know what I mean? And big up to the charity for making that happen. And, they did what they had to do. But I don't think you need to answer to anybody with the fact that you then wanted to move from the house that you were supplied back to where you're from. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Anybody that questions that is a knob.
Yes, actually, that should be in place on resettlement in the military. I think.
Well, what I will say is for my resettlement, now that the Armed Forces Covenant's in place, you don't need a local connection and you go to the top of the council list. And that has made my whole thing. I've ended up with a new build on a new estate. I live next to a country park. I look out and I just see greenery. I've got so lucky. But that's through the Armed Forces Covenant. I don't know how they pronounce it. Now that's in place, it's to stop things happening. So it's shit that it happened to you. But that there are things in place now that means that doesn't happen. If you're in the forces, when it's time to leave, you get rehoused with social housing in any area that you want to. You can apply anywhere at all. As we sort of come to the end and wrap it up, it's been amazing to talk to you, and I've really enjoyed it. How are you now? Like, where are you at in life? How is everything?
So I'm with the charity. I'm the ambassador now of Help for Homeless Veterans.
Yeah,
amazing. That gets me traveling all over, meeting some top dogs, trying to get funding and stuff, which is brilliant. We do a lot of that. I just left a job actually a couple of weeks ago, but this is again trialing, testing what works for me and what doesn't.
Yeah,
it's just a job and not for me. I've just redone my first aid instructor's course, so I'm about to start my own business. I want my own first aid instructor course, going back to what I know, medical stuff.
Yeah,
it took a few years to figure what I want, so finally I realized what I want, and going full steam ahead, going to pick some equipment up over the summer holidays, the next few weeks, like Sussianis and stuff. And off I go. Hopefully it goes well. And then so the ambassador, doing that. I've written a couple of books, believe it or not. I did one in Yorkshire, a couple in Yorkshire. That was my time. That was my processing. And
have they been published?
Only on Amazon.
Hey, I will put those links up. You say only on Amazon, I'll put those links up.
I did have my own boot camp for a little while, but then lockdown hit, which was going really well. I was doing children's boot camp, and that was amazing. Like, I had so many customers with the children, like over 30, 40, it was going really well.
So yeah, we touched on this at the beginning then. Fitness, is that a big thing?
Yes, I train 5 times a week. I do the odd one-to-one with some people, so I don't put too much on my plate, because I know if one too much hits my plate, I go and I struggle. So I have like one person at a time, one-to-one. I haven't got anyone at the minute, but we've finished some, and then I'll have another one again soon. But I need to leave it while I focus on business stuff now, because
But for yourself personally, you exercise to make sure that you stay on top of, because it's such a big thing, and I know people bang on about it. And then I see other things where people will sort of get a bit wound up when I say, like, someone's like, oh, I'm depressed. And I'm like, well, are you exercising? And they're like, oh, people just tell me to exercise straight away. And it's like, yeah, but are you exercising? No. Well, then fucking exercise.
What they say, 5 best doctors, like exercise, I don't know if it's 5, but sun, nature, healthy food, fitness, and weather.
I just want to say thank you for coming on. Thank you for randomly talking to a complete stranger over the internet, which
whether we like it or not.
You what, sorry?
We're family.
Yeah Right, well, listen, thank you. I'll keep in touch, and I really wish you the best for the future.